The following is a special presentation of the Red Stick Business Report. Watch future episodes on Soul of the South or contact your local cable provider.
Hi, I'm Howard White, and welcome to the Red Stick Business Report Show. This weekly 30-minute show will provide you with an insightful look at some of Baton Rouge's most dynamic leaders in the business and in our general community. The purpose of this show is not to impress you, but really to impress upon you that you too can make a difference in this world and in this community. So let's get started with today's guest. Today's guest is Miss Anna Jones.
Hello, Howard. Quite an introduction. Well, I just want to thank you for allowing me to come and participate on your show today. Hopefully, by the end of the show, we will have helped someone in the community to just, become a better business person. Thank you for inviting me.
No, I definitely would not have gone through the season without inviting you. I'm glad you made time to do that. But let me just first give proper credence to Anna and some of the accomplishments that she's achieved. Anna is a businesswoman. She's the owner of a State Farm insurance agency. As we were talking before, she was one of the first in the Mid-South, the first African-American woman to own a State Farm agency and fifth in the country as a whole. And that's a strong testament, Anna.
Yes, and to be honest with you, it was quite a task. It was quite a task. And, I give credit to a lot of people who actually worked with me, who pushed me to help me also get to that level to go out and just decide if this is something that I really wanted to pursue. And, with a lot of help and support from a lot of people, I pursued that avenue.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's dive back in to those early years in Franklin Parish.
Oh, Franklin Parish.
Yeah, Franklin Parish, Winsboro, Louisiana. I mean, wow. No, let's talk about that and how growing up in that small, close-knit community helped prepare you for your later years.
Well, Howard, we say Winsboro, Louisiana. I actually had a Winsboro address. We lived in the rural area, Fort Necessity, actually.
Fort Necessity.
Fort Necessity, which was about 15 miles outside of the city or town, shall I say, of Winsboro. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the high school, not the high school, don't let me get it twisted, the elementary school that I went to, we were all the country kids. We were sharecroppers and a very, very tight community. Everyone was home, away from home was our moms, pops. We had to answer to everyone in Fort Necessity. So, accrediting my early years, my childhood, my church family, my mom, my dad, and 14 sisters and brothers. You didn't know that, did you?
I did know that. If you forget, you talk about your father, Mr. Mose. I said Moses, but it's Mr. Mose.
Mose, that's
Mr.
correct.
Mr. Mose, and how people paid tribute to him. I've met other folks from Winsboro, and they spoke very highly of him. Talk about how he was a pillar of the community.
My dad, he was always what we call an entrepreneur. Okay. He was a sharecropper, of course,
right,
but he was a barber. He would cut hair 25 cents, I never forget it, on the corner store on Saturdays. He was a barber. He would always go out and fish. He would hunt. We picked berries. We picked up pecans. We always, as some say, a hustle. He always had some type hustle, legitimate hustle,
right,
on the side. And, my dad loved everyone. He was just one of those type people. To meet him, to know him, you were to love him. And he was a deacon in his church. His brother was a preacher, a minister, and he was just always a leader. That's where I guess I get it from, just that leadership. He was always a firm, positive role model. to his children, his family, and the community.
You know, you talk about that and coming from those meager means. You know, share with the audience a little bit about that decision to leave Winnsboro, because a lot of times, small country towns, people tend not to leave, and your decision to come down Baton Rouge.
Well, you know, my mom and dad, they always prepared us and they always pushed us to be the best that we could be. Not having a formal education of their own, their children had no choice. We had no choice in the matter but to become educated. They pushed us, and whether it was Southern University, Grambling State, or NLU at that time, we had to further our education, and they did not settle for mediocre grades even in elementary or high school. So knowing the background, knowing where we came from, and knowing that there just wasn't a lot to offer in Winnsboro or some of those surrounding areas, we knew in order to achieve, in order to grow, in order to be more productive, we had to get away from the little town of Winnsboro or the country of Fort Necessity. So it was like, do what you have to do. They encouraged us to go where we had to go and do what we had to do to become financially sound or to become independent women and men.
You know, Wild, as we get ready to wrap up this session, you know, I think about Fort Necessity. That's a new one on me. As much as I've been through Louisiana, Fort Necessity is a new one to me. But with that said, there was two things that really resonated with me, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those as we talk about your Southern University years, is that your parents prepared you and pushed you.
That's correct.
You know, that's a strong statement. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So stay tuned. We'll be back with segment number 2 of the Red Stick Business Report with Ms. Anna Jones as our guest today.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm Howard White, your host, and I'm here today with Ms. Anna Jones, State Farm agent here in Baton Rouge. You know, Anna, we were talking about your parents and how they prepared you and pushed you. You know, so we want to dive into that a little bit deeper. But the great thing about the push they gave you, you landed at Southern University. So talk about those early years at Southern University.
Well, actually, you know, I was at Southern only for 1 year.
Oh.
Okay. So I came to Southern, country girl. Man, that was a big leap, I tell you. It seemed like Baton Rouge was so far away from home. So I stayed at Southern a year, but I love Southern University. It's just, you know, one of those universities. But being from the country, and when I say country, you talk about Winnsboro, Fort Necessity. Fort Necessity was nothing but a bunch of cotton fields. But being from the country and away from my parent and, you know, my siblings and everything, I was afraid. Big city? You know, I was actually afraid. So I ended up going back home, going back and furthered my studies in Monroe. Went to stenography school,
Okay.
Finished that, and then I furthered my studies at NLU, which is ULM now. And I kind of went on to school there, didn't come back to Baton Rouge until later on in 1984 to open my business.
You know, the funny part about that, Howard White included, I always thought you were a Southern University graduate.
No, I did not graduate from Southern University. You can't tell, can you?
Never would have known, but now everybody knows.
I bleed the blue and gold.
Hey, once it gets in you, it's in your veins for life.
Absolutely.
You know, but talk about that transition and how, even though you did not stay here, you were able to continue to grow. And I think that's the key thing with whether it's Southern University or community college or whatever career you choose.
Well, to be an independent individual, I wanted to be an independent woman. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference in my church, in my community, and everyone that I touched. I always was, my profile, if someone do my profile, they find that I am a giver. And in order to be a giver, you have to make yourself, put yourself in a position that you can give. And giving not just finances, but your time, you have to love doing what you do. So even though I was in school in Monroe, Baton Rouge, or wherever, I was always trying to advance myself to get to a point that I could make a difference in someone's life. First, my own.
Right.
You know, starting at home and then spreading it abroad.
You know, let's talk about that. How did you go from there? We mentioned that you're a State Farm agent, so you had to start sometime, and that was what, 1984?
I started my agency in '84. Actually, I started working for the company back in 1969 in Monroe.
Wow.
So started at the bottom, started, you know, file clerk, but I worked my way, different promotions, you know, every 6 months or so I was promoted. And one day, one of my supervisors walked up to me and said, Anna, you know, have you ever considered agency? I'm like, well, no, not actually. But why not? That may be a very good choice for me. And that's when I started pursuing the agency. And within 6 months, I was an agent in Baton Rouge, 1984, starting from scratch, 0 customers.
So no book of business, just the tools, the policies, the procedures, and the market to go after.
The telephone, the ex-date cards, a lot of long hours, just being focused into building a business. Just had to stay focused, grounded, and a lot of sleepless nights.
You know, talk about that. You know, one of the things I always get with, especially our youth, they want it immediately. You know, they see your success, they'll see other business individuals that we bring on, and they say, wow, I want that too, but they don't want to work to get it. If you could just make one point towards commitment, what it takes to build a business.
You know, my thing is you swim or you sink. Sometimes it is too easy for people to go into business. Sometimes they may have investors who invest money. If you don't invest in yourself, and if you don't, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't put anything in it, you don't strive as hard to get something out of it. But when you put your last dime into growing a business, like I say, you swim or you sink. You will work a lot harder. I mean, your drive is different.
Yeah.
And my parent used to have one of these things say, easy come, easy go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you get it easy, it can go easy. But when you get it tough and you build it from ground roots and build it, you have a tendency to care a little bit more about it. And I do notice my grandkids and everyone, they want to start out at the top. You don't start from the top. You cannot appreciate the top unless you start somewhere at the bottom.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
know,
my take.
If I was sitting in church, all I could do is say amen, but we will say that. And I concur with you on that, Anna. I mean, that's a very important point to our youth or even older folks that are watching. I mean, you have to put the time in. You know, and that key phrase I love that you said, sink or swim.
Right.
And, you know, Anna is definitely swimming now with her business. And not only just her business, she's actually given a lot of time to other outside interests, helping other people, whether it's in the church or in the community. And when we come back to the next segment, we're going to talk about some of those things and what she does for fun. I think that would be the best way we would phrase that. What does she do for fun and not just work? So stay tuned until we come back to the next segment of the Red Stick Business Report Show. Hi, welcome back to the Red Stick Business Report. I'm here today with Anna Jones of Anna Jones State Farm Insurance Agency. Anna, we were talking a little bit about how you got into business and some of the things that you shared with us in the last segment, that sink or swim, I think is a key part. But let's talk about that a little bit more, the importance of when you're swimming, start to swim, how you help others swim.
Well, becoming involved. My first years as an agent, I mostly just worked to build the agency because that was the most important thing at that time. So after getting the agency off to where I needed it to be, getting referrals and having pillows in the community who was really sending me referral business, helping me out a lot, then, I figure it's time now for me to start giving back. So getting myself involved with, Southern University, involved with my church, the basketball. You know that I'm a big basketball fan, and I love the men and women basketball. So got involved with the Southern University six-man club.
Yes.
Six-man club, it became a lot of women, a lot more women in that club, especially when they made me president. So we got out there and started recruiting to do some things to mentor the young ladies. And, the men mentor the guys.
Right.
And it was just time to start giving back.
Well, let's talk about that. You bring up being a mentor. By you being engaged with the six-man club, it's gone way beyond just what happens on the court and what happens on campus. And one of the young ladies working in your office, former basketball player.
Former basketball player, Rolanda Monroe.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit, the importance of, as we're talking about giving back, but being a mentor and helping individuals start to swim.
I think it's important to sit down and listen. Listening is one of the most important things that we can do. Listen to an individual, help them to overcome their objections, because a lot of people are afraid. Letting them know what you went through as an individual to get to where you are, and helping them to understand if this is your niche. A lot of times we want to go outside of what our true niche is. And I think it's important to find out, where we should be and explore the avenues that we feel that we can achieve. But first and foremost, make sure it's in your heart. Make sure that it's something that you truly want to do, you enjoy doing, and don't mind spending 15 or 16 hours a day doing that thing. And Rolanda, basketball player, competitive, and in my business, that's what we need. We need competitive people. So when she agreed to take that job with me, I knew I had a good, strong, competitive individual who would be great. And it didn't hurt that she has a marketing degree. So.
As I talk to her, when I see her occasionally, she loves Miss Anna, so that tells me you definitely pouring into her. As you talk about that a little bit, and being transparent with our audience, I always ask this question. Give me one big do-over you would do in your professional career. That one thing that, man, if I wasn't so young and naive, I would have done it differently.
Had I known then what I know today, I guess that's the question.
That's the question.
All right. What I would have done, I would have stashed away every dollar that I spent at a fast food and on clothing and other things that I could to make sure that I had the finances that I needed to go into business. That was my biggest obstacle, was the financing that I needed to open that business. But I would be prepared. I would be better prepared for that.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge as a business owner, that capitalization, cash flow.
Exactly.
As I talk to business owners, that's a prevailing moment. The other side of that question is kind of a follow-up to it is, what is it that you want Anna Jones to be remembered? How do you want Anna Jones to be remembered? I call that my legacy question.
I want to be remembered as a giver. I want to be remembered as an individual who always tried to make someone else feel great,
Right.
To encourage someone. Always not about me, but it's about you. Never selfish. I want them to say I'm not a selfish person, and I'm not. But just that I had a big heart and that I loved everybody.
Looking back at your history, learning about the 14 kids, you could very easily be selfish, because I know there were plenty of times you had to share everything. If you were the youngest, you had the hand-me-downs and all the good stuff. But as we get ready to wrap this up, I want to say on the air to everyone, thanks for coming on. And if you could just say one word or one statement to our audience in 10 or 15 seconds, please share that with them.
Well, I would just like to say that it truly has been an honor to come on this show and share some of my experiences with you. If there's anyone out there in that audience who would like to further this conversation, if you're thinking about going into a business and you would like to speak with me, I'm at 4811 Harding Boulevard. Thank you.
All right, that wraps up this week of the Red Stick Business Report. And in the words of Socrates, to move the world, remember, we must move ourselves. Thanks again, and see you next time.